At 10:00 that morning, a destroyer supporting the 2nd Battalion, 105th Infantry, fired into the command post, killing 8 and wounding 32. 155mm gun battalions were used to disrupt operational use of the airstrips on Tinian, as well as northern Saipan. During this period, our tanks played an important part in supporting our troops. The vital hill, Mount Tipopali, was captured by the 2nd and 4th Divisions, while important approaches to the commanding ground of the island, Mount Tapacho, was also in our control. From these positions, it was tentatively planned to ease the 27th Division through the left flank of the 4th Division and continue the attack to the north. About 60% of the 2nd Division tanks were still in operating condition. The 4th Division was able to employ about 50% of its tanks. The 27th tanks were in good condition. The 1st Squadron of Army P-47s to be used for combat air patrols arrived at Aslito Airfield.
On D+8, Commander Northern Troops and Landing Force ordered a coordinated attack with 3 divisions abreast to jump off at 10:00. The 2nd on the left, the 4th on the right, and the 27th in the middle.
The 2nd and 4th Divisions jumped off on time and advanced about 250 yards in the first hour. The 27th failed to jump off on time. Units of the 27th mistook supporting units of the 4th Division, which was stationary, for the front lines. A delay was caused. As a result, the 2nd and 4th Divisions were forced to anchor their flanks to the center and proceed slowly in order to prevent serious gaps from arising. Thus, the attack was not coordinated, confusion resulted, and little advance was made during the day. Preparations were made for an attack the next day, in which the same objectives were reassigned. At the same time, Landing Team 2 of the 105th jumped off at 1300 with 3 companies abreast to take the remainder of Nafitan Point and clean up what was left of enemy resistance on the southeastern portion of Saipan.
23-24 June, D+89. Harassing enemy artillery fire made it necessary for American spotting planes to be put into the air from 2100 to 2300 and from 0300 to dawn. Enemy positions were thus picked out via fire flashes. An artillery duel ensued.
The remaining garrison of P-47s and night fighter planes capable of carrying 500-pound bombs arrived at Aslito Airfield. From about 04:45 to 05:15, enemy artillery shelled the area of the 10th Marines. The Fire Direction Center was hit, killing the executive officer, wounding the R2 and R3, and disrupting artillery communications. Several enemy tank attacks were beaten back. Bazookas, anti-tank grenades, 37s, and half-tracks were employed in the destruction of about 30 enemy tanks. Thermite grenades and demolition charges were dropped into disabled tanks. During the day, the 4th Division on the right advanced 2,000 yards and occupied its immediate objective against light opposition. The 27th in the center gained less ground, thereby causing a gap to arise on the left flank of the 4th Division.
Beginning late afternoon on 24 June and continuing for more than a week, enemy air attacks were directed against Aslito Airfield.
While the 4th Marine Division continued its swift advance along the eastern coast of Saipan, and the 27th made small advances along the center, the 2nd Marine Division entered the fringes of Garapan town where it found many mines and enemy sniper fire. The 8th Marines advanced over rough terrain and captured Mount Tapacho, commanding ground of Saipan. Rockets were used effectively by the 4th Division to thicken the artillery fires. This resulted in the 4th Division cleaning up the Bluff Point area. Capture of that point narrowed the front considerably and pinched out the 4th Division. Aslito Airfield, despite being rocked by enemy attacks from the air, was consistently used by our fighter craft. During the morning of D+11, 33 of our fighters, loaded with 500 and 1,000-pound bombs, took off from Aslito to strike at Tinian. The end of the day saw improved positions along the line, and about half the area of Saipan in our hands. Our forces then held the best positions since the initial landing. With a firm anchor in the southern half of the island, the grueling task ahead was to continue northward, where the enemy still was entrenched.
26 June 1944, D+10-11. At 21:05, condition red was flashed at Aslito Airfield. Enemy bombs dropped on the northeast corner of the field.
No planes were damaged, but personnel casualties were received, and a small fire started in one building. Several other raids occurred during the night.
At the same time, enemy ground troops armed with 50 caliber machine guns and 20-millimeter pieces raided Aslito Airfield. All available engineers and CBs on the spot defended the field. About 07:35, the situation was reported well in hand. Sweeping up from the as yet unconquered Nafitan Point, the enemy attacked Hill 500. Inasmuch as the 25th Marines of the Northern Troops and Landing Force Reserve had made a wise selection in the occupation of an assembly area on Hill 500, the enemy was repulsed with 400 killed. During this period, the railroad between the piers at Beach Blue 1 and Aslito Airfield was placed in operation.
At 06:30 on D+13, the 2nd Division and the 27th Infantry jumped off to the attack.
The 4th Division held its position, awaiting the advance of the 27th on its left. It supported the advance of the 27th by fire. To the already difficult conditions that prevailed was added a persistent rain that lasted for several days. While the 105th Infantry at last took possession of Nafitan Point,